Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome back to the Basement Tapes podcast. My name is Cazier, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Andrew Myers.
And today we're going to do things a little different, starting with some trivia facts in regards to Columbine, if you can believe it. On Christmas of 1998, Dylan Klebold gifted Devin Adams a stuffed anteater Beanie Baby. The Beanie Baby is present in our show, and we named it Tyrone. Tyrone has quite the presence on social media, so much so that we made him an Instagram account. Follow Tyrone and all his travels around the world at onlyfans_for_Tyrone, and all the O's are zeros. Andrew has a fact for you guys.
The second Christmas fun fact is Daniel Mauser's birthday is exactly 6 months before Christmas, on June 25th. Videos of his final Christmas can be found on Tom Mauser's YouTube channel.
Our guest this month is Justin Ravago, who plays Nate Dykeman in our 2024 production. You can also see him on the very right in the picture in the blue and black shirt. Justin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Justin Ravago. I was in the 2024 production of A Story of Columbine.
Yay!
And I'm on the right in the black and blue shirt.
That's...
Justin, while we're having this great energy today, do you have any holiday traditions or favorite activities to do for the Christmas season?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I think my favorite activity is every Christmas we go to my cousin's house because his birthday is on Christmas. So they host a Christmas party every year. It's a fun potluck. We play movies in the background and play board games. And then my favorite holiday tradition is for New Year's, we have 12 different round fruits to kind of show that like each month will be well-rounded, very full, plentiful. And so we have a bowl of fruit that we like cut into after New Year's, and then we eat the fruits from that bowl.
That's so nice.
So Justin, in the show, Nate Dykeman is the portrayal of three real-life people. Remind me who those three individuals are.
The people are Nate Dykeman, Brooks Brown, and Zach Heckler.
Okay. Did you find it challenging to develop your version of Nate because it was the mix of three real people?
I think since it was the mix of three real people, it actually made it a little bit easier. There's a little bit more creative freedom and liberty that could happen. I think since, even though Nate Dykeman, that individual, was a real person, the characterization of this person being multiple people, there was a little bit more freedom, and I discussed that with Autumn about what was kind of like in bounds, like still being like realistic, but not having to be super exact about like a really specific character. I mainly went into the history of Brooks Brown since that was the book that was lent to me by Autumn, and really relied on the text to teach me about who Nate was.
So Justin, what initially drew you to audition for the show?
I saw this show in the Theater Artists of Color Facebook group, and I was really interested to explore a little bit more about Columbine, since in school I learned about it, but I think it was really enticing to see it brought up as a stage production, since I think there is stuff to explore there. It's a lot of people love shows about high school, about real issues. I know there's so much media about like school shootings. I know like there's an episode in Glee where there's a school shooting that I thought was really interesting that they touched on that. An episode of Degrassi where there's a school shooting. And I think focusing on the reality of it and the real people, I think, brings a little bit more truth to it, even though it is dramatized, rather than creating a full dramatized production of it. I thought it was really interesting, and I think I was really interested in learning more about that topic.
Was there anything in your research that maybe you'd like people to know, or maybe something that people wouldn't know but you would like to share?
There's a line in the show where Eric Harris says to Nate, "I like you, go home." Something to that effect, but that's not verbatim. Mm-hmm. And I think it was really powerful to have those exact words in our show. because I know while a lot of comments on the internet are made in jest of like the school shooter tells you to go home because they like you, I think there's a lot of reality and a lot of weight that comes into that, where it's like there are people that kind of show those signs to you or say things that are concerning. And we see that in the media where people make something like, y'all get ready to see because I have a surprise at school tomorrow, and it's really a haircut. But I think it's good that we have those precautions and we're really mindful of that when people say things that are concerning, looking out for our community, noticing those signs in your own friends, I think is really important. And so seeing that dramatized and then also seeing it kind of as a meme in social media, I think that it's really important to remember that that actually happens.
That was very insightful, Justin.
Thank you.
Is Nate the first time you've played a real person? If so, what were your thoughts going in? And is there another real person that you'd like to play?
This is the first time I've played a real person. I don't have a real person off the top of my head that I would want to play. I think my initial thoughts going in were to trust the text, since you've mentioned before that you've put in several thousand hours of research into this. So I think really trusting the text in this case was to my benefit. I think also remembering what it is that these characters know and don't know to kind of preserve that dramatic irony and also kind of preserve the innocence of those kids. I think if I had made it seem like my character knew that Eric and Dylan were about to do the horrific things they're about to do, I think that could have salted the production a little bit, because I think it's really important that Nate Dykeman, who's also a combination of those other two individuals, Zach and Brooks Brown, that they didn't know what was going on. I thought that was something that was really, really interesting. It was also that Brooks Brown had to be questioned by the police so much and was thought of as someone who assisted with this, even though they really had no idea. I thought that was something that was really interesting in the research.
What do you think you found most relatable about playing Nate?
I'm a big complainer. and so there were a lot of moments where Nate would like kind of whine, and it started off as like kind of like a small thing, but with like working with like Autumn and like Miles and like everyone else who's in that scene, it just started to become bigger than what it was. I thought that was, and like while it is like super dramatic, I am a really dramatic person in real life, and so I think like that complaining and whininess that was a fun outlet, I think, in those comedic scenes where we're having an insight to what it was like in high school in the 90s. I think having those levities, the scenes of levity, are really important, and I really related to the complaining.
Speaking of, Nate and Devin are the comedic relief characters in our show. Do you feel as though laughter is necessary for the grieving process?
I think laughter is necessary for my grieving process, because I'm someone who finds humor in everything, and I think if I think too seriously about things, I wouldn't move forward. I think for some folks, though, humor can hold them back from actually processing those emotions. I think it's really important to actually go through all those stages of grief, whether it be in order or bouncing around. I don't think it's necessary for everyone. I think what's most necessary is actually taking the time to process those emotions. And if humor is one of those, I think for me, humor is one of those. But I wouldn't say that as a blanket statement that I think humor is important for everyone to grieve.
Do you think in our show those moments were really important?
I think in our show, they were important. Because seeing as the majority of the show was that Act 1 portion pre massacre, I think that to me provides a lot of justification for the production. Seeing these kids be kids, see them be high schoolers. I think that's something people want to skip right to the tragedy and talk immediately about that. But I think jumping right to that moment ignores all of the parts that led up to that. I think it builds really nicely up to, not nicely, but it builds, like in a storyline way, it builds up
Like
nicely. Efficiently.
So Justin, when it came down to actually performing as Nate, what do you think was your biggest obstacle?
I mainly do comedic roles. And so my one really serious, somber, dramatic scene, the trench coat, I had to do a lot of soul searching about what my relationship with the Columbine tragedy and what was safe for me to do as an actor on stage.
Sure.
I think I am a big believer of like Uta Hagen's work, which is like that kind of sense memory. I really like the idea that she said that by the time you're 18, you will have experienced every emotion to some degree. Probably not at 100%, because there's no way you've experienced your whole life by the time you're 18. But you've known what loss is at some point, or grief, or sadness, even if it's small things like moving to a new place, or a friendship breakup. And so I think the privilege that I have is not having experienced so much grief. And so having to figure out what in myself that I've processed that I could kind of look back on and be like, when was a time that I was sad and had grief? I think that was the hardest part for me.
So, Justin, what was your favorite scene to perform as Nate?
My favorite scene to perform as Nate was probably The Way You Look Tonight, which is the prom scene.
That was my favorite to do as Dylan. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Twins. I think that was the first scene that I actually saw. And I think that's when it really clicked to me, where it's like prom is like one of those rituals. It's a high school ritual. I think I went to prom twice. And actually, no, I went to prom 3 times. I went twice my senior year and then once my junior year. Or twice my junior. Anyways, I did it 3 times. And it was fun. It was fun all those times. And I think it's knowing the fact that this school shooter went to prom.
3 days before.
3 days before?
Yeah.
Wow. 3 days before that tragedy. To have such a fun time. I do think it is a little inflated in like movies and media, prom. I don't think it's everything it's meant to be. But if you go with the right group of friends and you have a good time, it's a fun time. How could you not have fun when you're dancing? The endorphins. And so it was really stark seeing this scene that's so that talks so heavily about the future. Talks about, I have dreams. I want to go to college. I have ambitions outside of just high school. And to hear Dylan say those words but not fully mean them was really stark. I thought that was a really interesting scene. And then there were the funny moments too, of course, like slapstick moments that I kind of added in, bits of farce, like that tie moment and yanking the flask out of his hand immediately after I've given it to him. Typical dorky, like wannabe poser.
I think
high schooler.
That scene for me I really loved because not only did I, in the Philadelphia show, not only did I love performing with Kenny so much, who played the previous Nate, but it's like they're having 2 different conversations. And it's an exact parallel of Susan and Eric's date scene, where they're also having 2 different conversations. And it's that instance of, it's kind of feels like closure for Dylan in a way, because he wants to have one last hurrah with his pals. But it's also, he knows what's happening. He knows he's lying about going to college and everything that he wants to do, and he won't see Nate succeed. Whereas Nate's like, you're going to be my life for a long time. And he doesn't know what is to come. So I think that though there is great emotion in that scene, it's like the forebodingness that makes it so unique.
Yes. Yes. That's a perfect way to describe it, the two different conversations. Because that was something that I had to work really hard on, is remembering what Nate knows and what only Nate knows. And remembering that Nate is approaching that from a sense of joy. Because I originally approached that scene as like, oh, I'm Justin. I know what Dylan's thinking. Because like, that's what I'm reading. That's the text. And then having that note come from you where you were saying, it's coming off really somber. Like, Nate is just went to prom. He's having a fun time. And so Dylan might be a little bit more somber, but I think the energy immediately improved. I think.
Yeah, because Nate didn't know what was to come.
I felt really good about the work that we did. And so, like, on the acting side of things, not even looking at purely the content of the script, I think we had a conversation about this behind the scenes, where it was something an actor teacher told me a while ago is that memorizing your lines should be the first thing you do. You need to get that out of the way as fast as possible. So having that be the first scene that I learned, I feel like that's why that scene was the strongest. Because we got to play around with it more. I got a lot more notes. I think I got to see Ryan's face more and get to interact with him more rather than having my head in my script. I think that was a real teaching moment for me, where I was like, I was able to play with it so much more, where the tie bit emerged. You still have moments of complaining. The pacing got better. I think we were able to have more moments and have a better energy, feel more genuine about this scene because of all of that extra work that we did earlier on, taking big risks. I have a question for you. Okay. Andrew, how did you feel about the scenes that we did together? And those scenes would be Reb's final restoration and the smoke in the room.
Yeah, I think that for the smoke in the room, a lot of what my character's focus is obviously Susan, and I kind of felt like I was treating Nate kind of like he was like a bug in the room, you know? It's just like something that's just buzzing around and like making noise, right? But by the time that we get to Reb's final restoration, and it's that him letting you go, I think that it was very it was a very unsettling feeling, because you called me a bitch, you know, and that was something that I felt like was very awakening for Eric. It kind of grounded him in that moment, and I think it made him realize what you as a character meant to his plan. Maybe not so much what your character meant to him, you know? And he knew that, at least in my opinion, I think that the reason why he didn't do anything violent or aggressive towards you is mostly just because of how your character and Dylan got along. And his loyalty towards Dylan, I think, is bigger than the beef that they had at that time. How did you feel about the scenes that we had together?
I think the motivations that you described come through really clearly in your performance, I think. Mm-hmm. I think you're really good at layering those subtleties in, because that was a long thing that you just said for a short scene that we have, and I think that work really shows, especially the relationship that you have with Dylan and the lack of the relationship that we have. Mm-hmm. I think I could see it in your face where it's like, you're acting completely different. You meaning you as Eric.
Right, of course.
And Eric's acting so differently. Because I liked that analogy, as Nate is a fly in the room. Mm. A very loud fly. The fly that, like, goes by your ear. Like, just, like, so obnoxious and, like, loud. Like, why is this guy here? And I think I would say I felt pretty similar too, where it's like, you're the fly in the room. Oh, okay. I'm trying to talk to my friend Susan here, and you're hitting on her. It's gross. And I think seeing in Reb's final restoration, when you like let me go, for using your words, I think that is a weird feeling, because it is sort of like almost a breakup of sorts, like Autumn described as frenemies, where it's sort of like, even though we weren't friends, we still had a relationship of sorts, whether that's undefined or something.
Yes, we did definitely have like some form of camaraderie as characters, for sure.
Exactly. Where we were always in the same spaces because we always had the same friends. And so for you to say like, this doesn't matter, I don't care about school anymore, you should just leave, don't even talk to me. Like, even though things like that had been said to my character before, like things that you're saying, like, nothing matters, you're a bitch, like things like that, where it's like in jest, seeing it as more somber and as like seeing those signs, I think someone in high school might not be able to pick up on those signs, and even me as like someone in my young 20s sometimes doesn't pick up on that coming from people where they're like not fully in it anymore, but you can sense that something's different. I think that was spooky.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do remember when we were doing the rehearsal process, a lot of what our movements, I felt like a lot of the movements in the cast came very naturally. Like when we did a lot of movement in I'll Follow You Into the Dark, and when we first were rehearsing Reb's Final Restoration together, there's those moments where I turn to you and you back away, and there are those moments of fear. And so I guess what I'm asking is like, how genuine do you think that fear was in that moment? Or do you think that a lot of it was more so you're feeling it out? Does that make sense?
That's a really great question. I think, like I said before with like Uta Hagen, I do believe in that. I have felt every emotion to some degree at some point. I think like whether it's to the degree of the fear of, oh, I locked my keys in my car or something like that.
Right.
Or it's like when you notice that your friend is being different. Or there's like that change in the room. Like I've had that feeling before where it's like they're not the same. Something has changed within them.
Yeah.
Something is not the same. We're recording this Wicked weekend, so get your tickets.
It's heavy on our minds.
But I think a little bit of that fear is real. There's a, just like the thought of there's something is wrong and I don't know what it is. The fear of the unknown. I think a lot of people can relate to that, where it's you simply don't know what it is. It's a surprise. Why people hate surprises. I think that pit in your stomach, that intuition, that feeling, I think some of that's real. Some nights maybe not so much, because when you do a show over and over, you know what's going to happen.
Oh, for sure.
So trying to replicate that same like pit drop feeling in your stomach it's not gonna happen every night.
But no, I definitely felt it those first few times when we were really getting into the rehearsal, especially with Reb's Final Restoration. I really felt that energy that you described, that like pit in the stomach, and that, yeah, no, I get that.
I think and that goes back to the preparation of it all again, because I think Reb's Final Restoration and the smoke in the room were two of the first scenes that I rehearsed with you all. Cold read. I came in not even knowing if I had the part.
Day one.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
It was going to be a callback for me.
Right.
It wasn't, you have the role just yet. So I looked over those scenes over and over. I did a lot of prep for it. It wasn't memorized, unfortunately, even though I a little toss. I really like to be memorized for callbacks if I can. I did a lot of work leading up to that, and then being like, okay, I'm going to trust my scene partners, even though I've never spoken to them ever until this moment. I think having that literally be the first interaction with you, Andrew, was a moment of like, well, let's leap into it. And I think that's where the fear would be really different. It definitely gets more polished because we talk about it, but I think that's when it's going to be the most genuine, because it's like, it's fear of like, do I fit in this space? I think all the people are brand new. I think there's a lot of a lot of trust that comes into that. And I think with every with every rehearsal process and stuff, there's going to be, you meet new people, you jump right into things, have those conversations. And I think it's interesting that the two of our main scenes were the first ones that we did.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. No, you killed it. I remember when you came in first day you just cracked everybody up, and it was just no, that was a great day. That first day you came in, just willing to jump right into it. It was awesome.
Thank you.
So Justin, who is someone in the cast that you wish you would have had a scene with or more of a scene with?
If it serves my memory correctly, I think I didn't have a scene with Anneli.
I don't. Aside from I walk with each of you.
With Robin's character.
Aside from the final one, no.
We have I walk with each of you, and we also have Human Condition, but Anneli doesn't say much. We interact once. She says.
Oh, Nate, your library isn't this semester.
I think Patty's coming back in. Miss Nilsson's coming here. I think you've been busted.
Both of those moments.
There's brief moments, but I think it would have been interesting to see Nate's relationship with Robin, especially because Robin and Dylan were dating.
Well, not necessarily. So in our show, Robin has a crush on him, but it's not reciprocated.
Oh, I guess. Sorry, dating in a really loose term, because they go to prom together and they have a steady date. But I guess that's not the same thing as being official, like being in a relationship. But I guess maybe that's why. Maybe it's not super motivated. But just in acting wise, I really liked Anneli's work, and I think all the actors that I did get to have scenes with it was so wonderful to get to work with them, like getting to work with Andrew and Ryan and Miles and Riley. I felt like I had, and Mark too. Oh, the scene with Mark, yes. Maybe more scenes with Miles too, because Miles is one of my friends. I invited him onto the show.
He played Dave Sanders.
Yes, Miles played Dave Sanders, and so I think that would be my answer. With more, we're getting to work with Anneli some more, and getting to work with Miles some more.
Nice.
Do you think that Nate will be a hard character for you to let go?
No. I think the time that I spent on Columbine, A Story of Columbine, that is, the production, I'll cherish that time, and I think that's plenty of time, I think, for me to have spent thinking about this tragedy. Of course, I think it'll drift in and out of my thoughts for a while, but I think my work with the character is done. I think getting to do those 10 productions and working with you all was a privilege, and it was really wonderful. But I think I'm someone who really likes to move forward and do new projects, work with as many people as I can. I think the run felt really complete. I don't think there's anything more that I would do with this character. I think though, in terms of Columbine, like the tragedy, not the production, I think I would be more interested in looking at those TED Talks that folks in the cast were talking about, and learning more about the people themselves in terms of the character work and me portraying Nate. I think I feel good about my time there.
So, Justin, our final question is, what do you hope audience goers take away from viewing our show?
Something that I was thinking about when I was watching the show from the sidelines or reading the script or during rehearsal was, what is something that I can do to help prevent stuff like this happening? And I think the script does a really good job of highlighting some of these signs coming up, things that are really concerning. It reminds me of this PSA that I've seen a while for about school shootings, where the commercial starts and you see this love story happening, and then all of a sudden there's that shooter in the background, and then they rewind and play the story again.
I think I've seen that.
And they show all the signs again. And a lot of those signs appear in our production as well. And I liked seeing that symmetry because it felt really true to the problems that happen. Like Dylan falling asleep in class, which is played a little bit for laughs, but is a real clear sign that there's some health issues happening there. Things like asking your friend who's 18 to buy you a gun. And of course, not putting any blame on the characters that are around them. It's hard to recognize those signs in your friends. But they saw those signs and serious red flags came up and they second guessed themselves. Like Annelli's character Robin asks Dylan, "Are you going to do anything bad with the guns?" Because she immediately has that reaction, like that puts up a red flag, and she ignores her initial intuition, even though she knew that something was wrong. Same with, I think that's how I move forward with Nate, where it's he recognized that there's something wrong in Dylan and Eric. Like the conversation that my character has with Riley's character, Devin,
Mm-hmm.
where he says, something's not right. Like, they've
Yeah.
stopped inviting me to things, making plans without me. And it is kind of that complainer moment, but it's also sort of like everyone is behaving differently. And it's, something's not right. So that's a long walk for a short drink of water. But the takeaway I have is looking out for your community. When you notice those red flags, take a moment to actually check if things are okay. And I think those characters actually do a really good job of checking to see if they're okay. And so I think of course it's never going to solve every problem ever. I think it's a good stepping stone. Like, hey, are you getting enough sleep? Hey, I noticed that we haven't been talking much. You canceled plans on me. Do you still want to hang out? Like, are you okay? Are things okay at home? I think checking in on your community and checking in with your friends, noticing those signs is really important.
Well, thank you, Justin, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, and we hope that you all have a happy holiday season and a happy new year, and we'll see you all in 2025.